Hey y'all, the video is going to start. Trust me, don't go anywhere. I feel like this is a very good video essay, like just to give you that. But I've decided to come on here. I wanted to kind of redo the intro, but I just can't be asked to go downstairs and put on get my camera out. So I'm just gonna do it here, and then it will just kind of slip into the video. Also I'm back. It's been a minute. I love doing this. I do love doing this. Long form content is a marathon, not a sprint, and that's why I think I've focused a lot of energy on TikTok, where I'm kind of posting more regularly there. But I think kind of where I'm at now, I'm just like I kind of want to switch focus and just really realign with what I want my goals and my future to be with the content I put out. The very nature of popular music means that we're all kind of forced to engage with it. But through this video essay, I kind of wanted to kind of unearth exactly how the popular music industry came to be, and it's built exactly off the backs of black exploitation, and that's kind of what this video is about. Yeah, enjoy the ride.
With each distinct stage in the music industry, black art...
Damn, that was really abrupt. I'm so sorry, y'all. That was really abrupt. Now being like fully back in the right, let's see in terms of headspace, but production values or something I want to work on. Oh, trust. That was really damn abrupt. Enjoy the ride again. Sorry, I didn't tell you.
Artists have constructed and exceeded what artistry and musicianship is, from the creation of rock and roll, widely understood to be the first iteration of popular music, to currently hip-hop and R&B being the most consumed genre in the US. Initially, the relationship that the African diaspora had with music was intrinsically tied with survival, resistance, and self-determination in the face of structural violence and inequality. As technological innovation in the means of communication and media dissemination has evolved, this has generated a global cultural economy. Music acts as a commodity, a way of cultural expression, and a social identifier, intertwining with various market devices and cultural intermediaries, terms which will be defined in this video essay, to shape consumption patterns and influence societal values. However, through this video essay, I will argue that much of the formation of popular music, music for the masses, was contingent on colonial violence and anti-blackness, which allows for mass music consumption to continue. I will then interweave this with exploring how, in the face of exploitation and erasure, black music was and is still able to emerge and assert its influence within this intricately crafted ecosystem designed to commodify and capitalize on creative expression. In understanding how black music emerges and is commodified into popular music, it calls to question what calls for its commodification. The emergence of the modern day capitalist system we live under can be seen in direct correlation with the success of the transatlantic slave trade, being able to operate a global supply chain through the exploitation of black bodies. What qualities of blackness have made it a historical target for exploitation under these systems of power and capitalism?
I.e., what makes blackness so cool? The semantics of blackness of being associated with coolness is always something that's a bit but why is that, basically?
Black academics have shifted away from a purely sociological perspective, which strictly focuses on blackness as a Western social construct, to ideas surrounding blackness as an ontological expression. James Cone, in his attempt to define blackness, defines blackness as an ontological symbol for all people to participate in the liberation of humanity from oppression. Amiri writes of an ontological essence of blackness which exists independently of and often in resistance to prevailing systems of power and domination. Blackness to him acts as a force that challenges, redefines, and transcends the confines of oppressive structures. This is essentially connected to African tradition and history. We put this together with Cedric Robinson's theory of racial capitalism, seeing the transatlantic slave trade as not just adjunct to capitalist development, but foundational to it, meaning that through the exploitation of black bodies, it showed that this capitalism thing really does work. Through that, we can see that there is a quality and an essence to blackness that makes it profitable. And defining what that essence may be might expand the borders of like traditional academic or critical thought, and possibly enter the realms of philosophy and theology. But capturing at least some form of working understanding of what makes blackness exploitable in a consumer environment proves foundational in this video essay's exploration of black music and the music industry. This Amir Baraka's Blues People serves as an important text in understanding how black music has emerged in American popular culture and was appropriated into rock and roll. Much of this operates in relation to the subhuman status given to black individuals during the transatlantic slave trade, which act as a market device. Market devices refer to the various socio-technical practices and actions that construct and mediate the interactions between different actors within a market. So placing it in context, the social construction of black people as subhuman acted as a market device in a consumer economy, facilitating in nullifying the moral and ethical concerns around consumer participation in the transatlantic slave trade. Slavery is objectively wrong, but if we can convince you that, hold on, these niggas ain't humans, these niggas ain't humans, it then enables the systemic exploitation and commodification of black lives for economical gain. Media and entertainment played a pivotal role within this broader market device, shaping perceptions, influencing consumer behavior, and more damningly, American culture and popular culture at large. Relevant to this video essay's exploration of popular culture and music is minstrelsy. Minstrelsy served as a grotesque representation of racial stereotypes with the use of both black and white performers, but it was largely popular and commercially successful, and this was by intention.
In order to fully understand the significance of minstrelsy, it is necessary for scholars to investigate exactly how the minstrelsy show maintained a place of prominence in American entertainment throughout the 19th century. The popularity of the minstrelsy show was not a natural occurrence, but a condition carefully cultivated by profit-oriented capitalists like J.H. Haverly.
This phenomenon underscores the depth of racial sensitivity which is at the core and foundation of the entertainment industry, but it also illustrates the intricate ways in which blackness has become digestible for consumption. Minstrelsy bastardizes and distorts the truth of the reality of black individuals in the West, who have been beaten and coerced into assimilation, calling for a surrender of one's humanity in order to be commodified, marketed, and consumed for profit. These same violent market devices are applied with how black music has been reappropriated. In Blues People, a text I really recommend, Baraka illustrates how black music is a product and expression of the pain, struggle, and fight for self-determination in America. Work songs began to emerge as African slaves were forced to abandon their languages and cultures. Here the music would become a mix of the slaves' indigenous languages and the mother tongue of their masters. In the process of assimilation after the Emancipation Proclamation, the musical traditions informed by slavery combined with the liberty to be more exposed to more instruments and normative white musical expression and theory became what Baraka called primitive blues and jazz. Again, his key proposition is that this music is inherently black and inherently a product of their collective oppression. However, due to the cultural implications of minstrelsy in trivializing and making the black existence seem like caricatured entertainment for white audiences, black music also faced the challenge of being consumed and reinterpreted as mere entertainment. I think a modern example is whenever a song, I think Nina Simone, I can't remember the exact song, but it went viral on TikTok and it's like, this song is about lynching. What are we doing? This has created, and it's still a thing, has created this illusion that what is inherently black and diasporic sounds that they can be taken from without much regard. Academic Keith Negus paints a beautiful image of the conflicting relationship between commerce and creativity and shows how both can act as drivers of innovation in the creation of popular music. What pushes artists to pursue new sounds and sonic landscapes? For black artists, it's often incredibly intermingled. This dichotomous interaction is shown with how black music, what then was known as the primitive jazz, which is a music being created out of a necessity and a desire to use the music of gift to make a living. And going into the 20th century, this is something that becomes appropriated by white musicians into something that they can now make into a commercial product. This is exemplified with the creation of the first commercial jazz recording by the Sicilian-American Original Dixieland Jazz Band in 1917. In its comprehensive recount of the history of the jazz genre, the Original Dixieland Jazz Band were inspired and appropriating of bands in New Orleans, specifically King Oliver's band. The King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band, formed in the early 1920s by cornetist Joseph King Oliver, became one of the most influential groups in New Orleans and later in Chicago, where they gained widespread acclaim. King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band featured some of the era's most talented musicians, including a young Louis Armstrong, who would later then become a jazz icon. The band's performances were categorized by their innovative use of collective improvisation, syncopated rhythms, and rich brass harmonies, which helped define the emerging jazz genre. When it came to producing the first commercial recording of jazz, the Original Dixieland Jazz Band were not initially actually the first offered. Freddie Keppard's original Creole Orchestra originally offered the opportunity to make a commercial recording in 1915, but declined the opportunity to prevent white musicians having the ability to imitate their sound. They're also victim of attempts by record labels who would offer them studio time to attempt to record and sell their musical output. Here the desire to preserve the cultural integrity of black music is disrespected by white artists who are unable to comprehend and grasp what exactly makes the music so profoundly brilliant. You can hear it in the quality of the music, not just in jazz. I'm always going to try to offer like sort of modern day examples. So what I would say is how Teen Pop, and I'm going to point the fingers at Max Martin, how they basically just imitated black urban R&B hip hop music and repackaged it into something white. And it did amazing. This directly correlates and comes off the back of the mechanisms and strategies taken by the Western hegemony to encourage the selling of black bodies. The music, like the people, is not being ascribed its accurate value. Jazz and blues being a direct product of black suffering. And due to this, white artists being driven by commerce as a motivator of innovation took and appropriated black music without any regard. This commodification and exploitation here is part of this chain reaction that created popular music. This process and phenomenon can be critically examined through the lens of Theodore Adorno's concept of the culture industry. Within the culture industry, popular music acts as an example of how cultural products are appropriated and mass-produced and standardized to meet the demands of a capitalist market who have been trained to take from black culture while simultaneously not taking it seriously and repurpose it for commercial gain. This isn't too dissimilar with how fashion and manufacturing industries, which are commonly critiqued under capitalism, operate in the churning out of product with little regard to ethical or sustainable production. In looking into how blackness operates in the West and in a consumption culture, minstrelsy, burgeoning black music genres and other forms of popular entertainment on the surface illustrate a shift towards cultural, let me say this word, cultural omnivorousness. Okay. Coined by Richard A. Peterson to describe how cultural consumption patterns moved from embracing the consumption of broad and diverse range of cultural products that individuals, irrespective of their socioeconomic background, can appreciate and enjoy. I take issue with this term and definition in relation to the exploitation of black bodies and the product of their commercial labor, as the term cultural omnivorousness, whatever, is still contingent on the maintenance of the existence of a hierarchy in taste, which is defined by the cultural hegemony, whatever. Anthony Bourdain's hypothesis of cultural taste.
It's Pierre Bourdain, not Anthony.
Does argue that cultural tastes are not strictly by personal preferences, but shaped by an individual's position in relation to the cultural hegemony. The dominant or hegemonic culture The dominant or hegemonic culture tends to dictate what is considered high or legitimate culture. What Peterson and his definition of cultural omnivorousness fails to capture is how the role of dehumanization and the disdain to blackness held by white consumers, how that interacts with this conversation. White consumers, due to their own prejudices, are unable to grasp and digest the intricacies and complexity of black cultural products.
Okay, I'm editing and I just wanted to kind of, I should have my hair up more. Do you get what I mean? I've got like in a thing, but this is just so I can like sleep and whatever. But I need to figure out like, do you like some styling, whatever. But whatever. What I was basically trying to, why I'm here to add this little note to the video. What I was saying was not making sense, so I'm going to just repeat it again. I feel like what I'm not doing is condemning white people and white consumers as all just like universally racist, and that's something that can't be unlearned. But I feel like, and that's why you have to kind of be in tune with like the kind of anti-racism thing, unlearning behavior and all of that. My mind goes to that video where it's like a black artist is performing and then like they're trying so hard like not to like care or give a fuck. I'm at home. I shouldn't be cussing. God. But at the same time, it is kind of evident just with like certain discourses. And again, like I'm on Stan Twitter, so I see certain things. Like I think it's certain ways in which certain genres are approached. When Nicki Minaj was getting like dragged for bullying Megan Thee Stallion or whatever, there was this like white crowd that went viral for how she reads Nicki Minaj and whatever. But I'm just like, she said something to the line, I'm going to insert it here.
Yet her one singular talent that appears to be an innate ability to rhyme words together in a silly silly fashion that particularly resonates with children has cemented her with a legacy she really does not deserve as much as many female rappers who came before her.
And I'm just like, because of your whiteness and your privilege to not really actually understand the cultures that form black music, and in this case rap and hip hop, you're just disrespecting and dismissing the entire genre. And that's often, there's a term, I think it's like cultural myopia. That's what I'm talking about. And this is something that I'm going to follow up in a video essay focusing kind of like a sequel to my Ariana Grande Yes and response, and kind of talking about white artists and how they exist within black music. I'm working on it, please. I'm working on it. I want it to be good, and I wanted to do some additional research. And that's what happens with these video essays. I start somewhere, then I'm like, ooh. But yeah. Arguably, this subverts the idea of the white hegemonic culture being highbrow taste. It also does suggest that the consumption of white consumers, the supposed cultural omnivores, more akin to mindless consumption, that of pigs. Walk with me here, as it's definitely more of a thing to reflect on than to take as hard fact. Pigs are often associated to mindless and indiscriminate eating, consuming whatever's in front of them without distinguishing between valuable and non-valuable items. What makes the consumption of white cultural omnivores more concerning to that of pigs is these consumers do possess the mental and instinctual ability of discernment.
And then I just want to say this, that also under like the current unethical streaming consumption model that we all participate, everyone's consumption is very, very pig-like, because we are participating in something that requires us to, I hard to say this, like we know that streaming is unethical, and by us paying these streaming service fees, we are basically calling the music worthless. That the music that is made is worth 0.003 cents every time we listen to it. So yeah, we all pigs. We all pigs.
This is the forces of capitalism and the market devices which simulate this culture of ethical unscrupulousness, where consumers will believe that black people are subhuman, yet are happy to consume and take from black cultural products. It's a fallacy. This would create a consumer environment primed for the consumption of anything that bears likeness to music rooted in a black origin. This is exploited through the systemic use of cover versions in the 1940s and 50s, where white artists would take original black composition and present them in a sanitized, palatable form for predominantly white audiences. Due to major record labels facilitating in the promotion and success of these cover versions, the racial origins of this music was often obscured. Due to the Copyright Act of 1909 not taking into account recorded music, the black artists responsible for early rhythm and blues music were financially and intellectually robbed. This created alienation from black consumers from these records, who were aware of how their music and culture were being outrightly stolen. However, this only reinforced the idea that black people are not economic agents, therefore they don't need to be accommodated to in a consumer environment. This yet again is another illustration of the utter disregard of black humanity, which is pivotal in black music, shifting from a product and sign of resistance and cultural self-determination to one of mass appeasement and entertainment. Despite the intrinsic ties between the exploitation of blackness and the development of a popular music industry, the traditional style of the popular music era is commonly attributed to the 1950s, with its origin being categorized by the notable increase in record sales, which began to surpass the sale of sheet music. There was a great emphasis on distribution through record labels rather than publishing, which technological advancements in radio and music consumption formats made possible for recorded music to become a much more ordinary commodity. From here, all aspects and market devices within the popular music industry emerged to further incentivize the consumption of music, primarily through tangible formats like vinyl records and later cassette tapes and CDs. What the entry of black music in a commercial environment does is act as an extension of an already easily exploitable product that is blackness. Radio, which was a very important market device in the development of earlier popular culture, plays a significant role in shaping consumer preferences and contributing to the commodification of music. But in the context of this video essay, as the emergence of recorded music programming in the 1940s expanded the reach that consumers can have to music, it as an audio format means the music becomes more easily detachable from the social context which inform how the music is constructed and consumed. music becomes disembodied. And again, whilst through the guise of cultural omnivorousness, this poses as a positive in some ways. But what it really does is aid in the further exploitation of black music. Music can be consumed with a racial ambiguity in people not realizing that they're listening and consuming black music. All this does is aid in the mediation of white consumers getting acclimated to the taste of black music. Radio also materializes as a cultural intermediary. Drawing upon Bourdieu's concept of cultural capital, cultural intermediaries act as mediators between the production and consumption of cultural goods. They've been created with the intention to serve a pivotal role in interpreting, translating, and often commodifying cultural goods like music to cater to both capitalist market demands and to be a zeitgeist indicator. As acting as tastemakers, the choices made by radio programmers and DJs are not only seen as being influenced by commercial merit,
I meant artistic merit,
but also commercial considerations, which is why we have things like payola and again radio and how radio can be controlled in how a song becomes a hit. It's incredibly relevant. Commercial considerations include the platforming and positioning of white artists over black artists who are intentionally having their influence and contributions to them what becomes popular music erased. And what it does for these black artists is forms a labor cycle which forces them to keep innovating at the chance that their contributions will be recognized and they will be met with the success and financial compensation that they deserve. This quite insidious relationship between the music industry and radio underscores the dual nature of the popular music landscape, a space for both artistic expression and commercial interests to battle it out. However, historically, it's always been the commercial interests that win in this dynamic. This conflict is evident when you look at the large growth and expansion of the music industry from the 1950s to the 1970s, as the industry consolidated and institutionalized its operation to colonize leisure. This drive for capital frequently served as a primary factor in executive decision making, and the market devices instituted at this time, such as promotional campaigns, radio airplay, and physical distribution networks, were geared to maximizing the sales of these physical formats. This was part of a broader media landscape categorized by controlled dissemination of content. Within this landscape, industry executives and staff wielded significant influences over consumer preferences, leveraging the economic and material resources at their disposal. Black artists existed as a pawn in this commercial chessboard, maneuvered by the industry's economic imperatives. The music industry's focus on commercial interests led to the erasure of black artists' vital influence in the development of popular music. However, in many ways, whilst understanding the limitations of cultural omnivorousness, the desensitization and the apathy of white consumers did inadvertently create sites where black artists could emerge and achieve commercial success. Motown is a prime example. Filmed by Barry Gordy in 1959, was able to build and sustain a mass commercial audience through the intentional deployment of strategic measures to navigate the commercial landscape and carve out a space for black artists. Gordy, recognizing the prevailing racial dynamics, skillfully positioned Motown artists as crossover acts. This intentional maneuvering aimed to make black music palatable to white audiences whilst intending to preserve its cultural authenticity. How successfully this was done is kind of iffy, as a lot of Motown practices do skew very closely to assimilation and this embodiment of respectability politics. However, what can't be taken away from the success of Motown is that it demonstrated within the industry's strict commercial framework that there did exist opportunities for black artists to not only survive but thrive. In seeking to aggressively enter the commercial music industry, black music does kind of surrender itself to this commerce or creativity complex as articulated by Negus. But Negus does also expand on this idea of acting as a dual possibility. But even in that, it's crucial to recognize the limited scope of this success. Whilst Motown achieved a remarkable feat, it represented only a fraction of black artists who faced systemic exploitation. The industry's focus on commercial interests led to the commodification of black music, where financial success for a few didn't necessarily translate to the upliftment of the broader black community in the context of popular music. But still, an example like Motown did play a pivotal role in sustaining both, again, through this dual possibility, black creativity and commercial viability. This is not only evident in an example of looking at a former Motown artist like Michael Jackson. Album Thriller remains the best-selling of all time, but even there's context that can't really be forgotten. In the relentless pursuit of both stardom and artistic excellence, Michael and producer Quincy Jones had to be so intentional with the sound and the rollout of Thriller, implementing rock, having The Girl Is Mine as the lead single. But again, looking at this dual possibility of commerce over creativity, Motown does also have have a reluctant contribution to music creative innovation. Artists like Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder reshaped the landscape with groundbreaking bodies of work that were able to revolutionize the very art form of an album.
And then shameless plug for this, like for me elaborating on the bit about Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye specifically, if you go on my TikTok page and check the 2-pin videos, I did one on what's going on specifically and where is it coming from. But there's a whole series on Stevie Wonder, which is about like 10, 11, 12 videos, just all about Stevie Wonder, his classic period, and how he kind of reformed the culture at Motown when it came to creativity in spite of commercial gain and aspirations.
But these weren't created without capitalist resistance, with Gordy thinking this needs to sell. And honestly, then in the context of this conversation, can I slowly kind of sympathize with black capitalism? Yeah.
The correct answer is absolutely not.
Because it's a little bit cringe, but when Kanye West and Chance the Rapper said, music is all we got, real. Hopefully through this video essay, it's kind of illustrated how blackness and black bodies are perceived through the Western hegemony as objects to be commodified and exploited. The music industry as a microcosm of this broader issue reflects the ways in which black cultural products, particularly music, have been subject to erasure and manipulation. This can be understood not only through the process of filtering and selecting what is circulated to the masses, thus birthing the still relevant and commercially viable popular music industry. We're done. Thanks for watching. With this video essay, I really wanted to kind of focus on the first part of popular music, because we all kind of understand and we've got this notion that yes, things like rock and roll were created by black people. But hopefully you can see through connecting it directly with the transatlantic slave trade, you can see why black music just is so important. Even today, even an artist like Sexy Red can't be taken out of these contexts that exist. Know your history, know your culture.
Which is popular. So we all need to understand it. Because sometimes, actually don't want to go into this. No, sometimes I have... I think it's funny in the sense that it's just like, whatever.